Hey everyone, this is John Schneider with 3D-Fuel. This is the 3D-Fueled podcast, a podcast all about the 3D printing industry, things that are related to it, and small business ownership, small manufacturing, especially manufacturing in the USA, marketing, e-commerce, kind of everything related to that. This week, we're going to be covering mostly 3D-Fuel related things. This is kind of a big week for us. We have expanded our USA production facility and we are lowering our filament prices. So this is something that we've been getting a lot of questions about. If you look back to a year ago when we brought filament manufacturing back to Fargo, even before then, people said, hey, love your materials. We think they're great. They have a lot of potential, but I can't justify using them on a more regular basis with all of my other 3D printing projects. I only really use it for those projects where it makes a big difference, or it's a really important part, or I really need it to be a functional print. We have some materials that we feel very strongly about. Pro PCTG, for example, we think that it has a very strong potential to replace PETG as a 3D printing material. But we understand that when it was $39.90 for a kilogram of PCTG, that's not always very sustainable for people. Now, the people that were using it and are using it, clearly you use a lot of it. And we're very excited about that. I mean, we've been running our production lines 24 hours a day, 5 to 6 days per week, depending on what our production schedule looks like. And we just couldn't justify bringing the price down when we were already maxed out on production capacity. I mean, this is just from the business standpoint, I get it. You want us to be able to lower the prices, but for us to be able to do research and development and add new colors and develop 3D printing profiles, that all takes time and resources. And we can't really do that when we just can't risk selling out of the material by pricing it down. But because we've been able to expand our production capacity, that now gives us the ability to do that. And behind the scenes, we've been doing a lot of things to help bring our cost of goods sold down, to be able to make this a reality. So, I mean, some of the biggest filament prices that we're dropping, Pro PCTG, we've basically dropped it by 25%. So it used to be $39.90 for a 1 kilogram spool, and now it is $29.95 for a 1 kilogram spool. So I'm very excited about that. We've been able to get Pro PCTG below the $30 threshold for a kilogram of this great material. We have it available in 41 different colors, including transparent colors, toolbox colors, a lot of like earth tone colors as well. Basically, if you're looking for a particular color of a durable functional material, this is going to be huge for you. This is also going to be good for our existing customers because now they'll be able to start using Pro PCTG in more of their 3D printing projects. And if you're running a print farm, for example, we have some customers that are doing they're doing tool holders and tool accessories using the toolbox colors. This just helped you get that much more profitable in your 3D printing business. But Pro PCTG isn't the only material that we've been able to bring the prices down on. This has helped us, we have economies of scale in our other materials. So Pro PETG, which we know that some of you still really like to use, even though PCTG is better, we've been able to lower the pricing on that by 17%. This is... we've brought that down to $28.95 per kilogram. Now, we don't have a very wide variety of colors in that material, but for those of you that just know PETG, you love printing with it, this is going to help you save that much more money. I mean, this is 17% lower pricing because both PETG and PCTG are copolyesters. They're in that same kind of material family. It means that we're able to go from that material back and forth without needing to do a crazy amount of changeover work. We do have a high mix when it comes to our colors in PCTG, but in terms of having to like pull a screw, switch out a screw type, we don't have to do that when going from PCTG to PETG. So not just copolyesters, but we've also been able to reduce pricing on our PLA. Our Tough Pro PLA Plus, we've been able to reduce by 5.6%. So not a crazy amount, but we did want to bring that down. That raw material, that NatureWorks 3D-870 PLA resin is really expensive. It's one of the reasons we can only, I mean, we're trying our best to bring that down, but it's an expensive raw material. So that's $32.95 per kilogram. And then our standard PLA Plus is now $25.95 per kilogram. That's 13.2% lower pricing. So we're really happy that we've been able to bring that pricing down across the board for those materials, some of them really dramatically, like that Pro PCTG drop. So this pricing makes us one of the most cost competitive filament brands that manufacture entirely in the United States. So there are other filament brands out there. Let's take Polymaker, for example. Yeah, they have a lower price point than we do on some of their materials, but they're subsidizing their US manufacturing with the bulk of their manufacturing happening over in China. So they have economies of scale over there and lower costs for a variety of different things that we simply can't compete with. We're doing what we can. We're really trying hard here to bring things down. But, when you compare us against other US filament brands, we think we're doing a very, very good job so far. So aside from just adding production lines, like how did we do this? How did we enable this? Well, of course, one of the biggest aspects is that additional production capacity that gives us the ability to reduce the pricing without worrying about completely selling out and leaving you guys with, with stockouts, which we certainly have struggled with in the past, trying to keep all of our colors, all of our materials in stock 100% of the time. If we don't have enough production capacity to keep up with that because we've lowered the price too much, well, that really hurts the people that have been relying on the material, and then they hit a project and they get a big order from one of their customers, and now we don't have something in stock. So just by expanding that capacity, that's really helped. We've been able to do that without increasing our footprint in our production facility. So we've gotten very creative with how we are storing raw materials, how we're storing and warehousing our finished product, how we have our production lines laid out, really maximizing the use of the square footage that we have access to and that we're paying for in that building. So we've been able to increase that capacity without increasing that rent or that lease expense. We have also done some things on the raw material side. You may remember about a year and a half ago, about a year ago, we changed our packaging. So we went from having a package that had more of a scoop cutout, and it was a printed box. We had a much larger product label on it. It looked really good on retail shelves, but the fact of the matter is very few people were buying 3D-Fuel filament on retail shelves. Almost everyone was buying them through our website or some other e-commerce channel, and so it was getting shipped out. It looked good on a shelf once you got it in your home, but ultimately, customer feedback said, hey, we just throw that cardboard box away, or we recycle that cardboard box. So by switching from that style box to a simple 8x8 by 3 inch craft cardboard box, not only is it faster to assemble, so it ends up makes it easier for our production line operators to do more boxes per minute when they're assembling them, but it is a standard box size. That means that we don't need to pay for a custom die. We don't need to pay for, custom print plates for doing that. It's just a plain craft box. We've also been able to change the size of the label that goes on the box, still keeping it full color so it's easy to identify both the material and the color of the filament when it's sitting on your shelf all the way from across the room. But we've been able to, I think we cut that label size down to about a third of the size it originally was. So we have a dedicated full color inkjet label printer for doing this. So it prints faster. We don't have to be cutting the labels after the fact, because before we were having to trim them down when we were printing them in-house. By printing in-house, it lets us be more flexible with the labels. We're not needing to place orders for 1,000 of a particular SKU. We're able to print them on demand right at the right at the packaging station. And that also brings our cost down on the label. I think we brought the label cost down. We're talking more than just a couple of pennies. I think we brought them down by a dime, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking manufacturing on the scale that we're talking about, all those dimes, those nickels, those pennies, those quarters, they really add up in a hurry. And still talking about the box, we've been able to work with a small local box manufacturer who is someone that he had been trying to earn my business for years, but they didn't have the capability to do the die cut stuff that we were doing before. But with this simple box, we've been able to cut our box price by over 50% compared to Uline. And the Uline price was less expensive than when we were having the scoop cutout box. So we're talking, it's maybe 30% of what the scoop cutout box originally was. And to add on to that even more, this 8x8x3 box can act as the shipping carton for single spool orders. So now we're not having to add another overpack box on top of that. That helps us bring our costs down, not only when we're shipping out of Fargo, but that also helps bring our fulfillment costs down when we're selling filament through Amazon. So they have a program called SIPP, Ships in Product Packaging, which lets us save, I mean, again, not a crazy amount. I think it's about 30 cents per unit that's fulfilled, because they're able to just slap the shipping label right on that box. They don't need to put it into another Amazon box first before fulfilling it. So all of these things start to add up. One of the other things that we're able to do is just larger ordering quantities. Now that we have more volume, we're placing larger order sizes for our resins. So our PLA resins, our Pro PCTG resins, and all of our other like inputs, our colorants. Because we're ordering larger quantities, we get better pricing on those things. Even things like our boxes, our labels, our vacuum seal bags, our desiccant packs, all of that, because we're able to purchase in larger quantities. We're able to bring our COGS down. Now, we're also doing, because we work with a US supply chain, that means that we're really flexible. We don't need to place orders for something 2 months in advance. I know in some cases, some of our competitors, when they're sourcing things like boxes, like resin, like spools from China, it's not that in and of itself getting something from China is bad, but it increases your lead time. So you're always needing to plan 2 to 3 months or more in advance, especially if you're in the busy holiday season, because now you have to worry about the, placing an order with your manufacturer over in China. They need to make it. They need to package it up to ship it. It has to cross the ocean, has to get unloaded, has to get to your facility. And now you also have that threat of tariffs that you have to contend with too, which they're not quite as volatile as they were earlier this year, but you still don't know. A tariff could change next week, next month. For us, by sourcing things in the United States, it helps smooth out those pricing changes quite a bit. It helps make things more predictable. It means that in a lot of cases, I'm able to place an order for something on a Monday and have that in my facility on a Friday. That also helps us be more efficient with our utilization of space and helps keep our warehousing costs down. Another thing, and this has more to do with just how I run the business, I do a lot of the admin and marketing tasks in-house. The fact that I'm shooting this video, I'm editing this, I lit this. You'll notice that the lighting is better. The camera work has improved quite a bit over the last few weeks. I have got to thank a few people on that for providing feedback, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the questions section when I'm answering some of those. But I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff in-house just to help keep those costs down. But I am getting better at recognizing, hey, this is something that I'm good at, or this is something that I'm not good at, and it's not the best use of my time. There is, unfortunately, only one me, and I do still need to have life outside of making filament and running 3D-Fuel. So for something like managing our Amazon presence, we work with an agency for that. Managing our online ads, I work with someone to help manage that, but a lot of the ad creation, a lot of the content creation, that's handled in-house, because when I've worked with agencies in the past, you can always tell if they've done any 3D printing before. I've had it happen where what the agency thought looked really good in a photo was a terribly wound spool, or it was a print that turned out awful and was a poor reflection on the quality of the product that we actually make. And believe me, the engagement on those ads, it certainly matched that too. It was good for engagement. It was not good for conversion. We also try and do a really good job of listening to our customers. So not just putting something out there because we think you're going to want it. I mean, believe me, I definitely do some of that. I've been wrong before. The color Warm Bisque, for example, it's basically a Caucasian flesh tone. It doesn't sell very well. Now, granted, we don't really promote it a whole lot, but we have a bunch of that colorant on hand. That's kind of an example of something that didn't work out exactly the way that I thought it was going to. But when we have products like Pro PCTG, and then customers are telling us, hey, I make tool accessories. This is something that I'd love if there was a perfect color match. Well, there we go. We've added now a total of 6 toolbox colors, 7 if you count our lime green as a festool kind of toolbox green. But by listening to our customers, it helps us make a lot more right decisions than wrong decisions at this point in time. I've also been doing this for 10 years. I've learned a lot of ways how not to do things. I've learned what doesn't work. I've learned some things that do work, but almost more importantly, I've learned what doesn't work. So that helps save time now too. And then also partnering with the right people at the right time. We have some partnerships that are in the works right now that I think are really going to work out well. I'm hoping to have more to share about that in the coming weeks, but that all takes some planning because those partnerships don't happen overnight. But I think you're all going to be happy with how some of these things turn out. Another thing, back to the raw material side and the cost of goods sold, we are switching to a new spool type for a couple of reasons. There's actually kind of 3 big reasons here. One, we hear your feedback on the fact that plastic spools, a lot of them end up in the landfill. Right now, there's just not a really good U.S. cardboard spool manufacturer. And if we were to move to refill spools, which is something that we might do in the future, but right now, we would have to invest in new winding hardware that we could only really use for doing those refill spools. And that also ties up more space in our warehouse, that ties up more raw materials, and it makes it more difficult to cash flow a business of this size. But we do want to have a better spool. So the new spool that we're moving to uses 29% less plastic. So that means less plastic that's going in the landfill. And this plastic is already recycled, so we're already preventing something from going in the landfill in the first place. There's also some functionality that is going to come along with this. It's going to be more effective for helping to dry your filament. It's still going to work really well in an AMS. It's fully AMS compatible, but it is also 39% less expensive for us to be using this spool. Part of it is because it's being injection molded closer to our facility, but because it has that reduction in plastic, it is a simpler mold tool design. It's helping us to save money on that. And when we're talking, I think it's like a 60-cent difference. It's a 60-cent savings per spool. And then you start stacking that on all of these other savings that we're getting to on the raw material side. It gives us a much better ability to pass along those savings to you guys on top of providing better functionality. And this last part about this spool is really cool. It's going to enable semi-automation for some of our production lines. So we're not going to be able to do this on all of our production lines, at least not at the moment. But this is going to let us to scale up and add even more production lines without dramatically increasing our headcount. Right now, labor is one of the biggest input costs into making filament, and you need to have someone watching the production line. You could have someone making let's say a 25-pound spool, and that's just kind of doing its own thing, and then they're also manning another production line. And I've talked with some filament manufacturers that have 1 production line operator for every 3 production lines, but then they're using they have less throughput on their production lines, so they're running their lines more slowly to enable that to happen. So we really think this is going to help, and that's why we feel so confident about being able to reduce our pricing to you to help you guys use 3D-Fuel filaments on more and more of your 3D printing projects. And another part of this, and kind of the last part, and this is where this is more of a strategic move on my part, I think. We are accepting lower profit margins in exchange for building out this scale. Now, there is a crossover point here where at some point, you can't be losing money and make it up with volume, but we can do some things to help get 3D-Fuel in the hands of more customers. I mean, we want more people using 3D-Fuel, so there's more people talking about 3D-Fuel, and so then more of that marketing happens organically, more word of mouth rather than so much paid marketing and running online ads. So it's a bit of a strategic gamble on my side. I do think it's going to pay off, but we are making less profit per spool in order to make 3D-Fuel a more attractive filament to a wider variety of customers. We really want to be more of that daily driver for 3D printer filament. We don't want to only be the material that you use for those high-end projects. We hope to continue that that use case where on the projects that really count, where you need a functional material, you need color consistency, you need consistent diameter consistency, that you use 3D-Fuel. But we also hope that you start using it on more of your, I guess, less demanding 3D printing projects. And for print farms where you're selling a product, I get it, every single penny counts. So if we're able to help you save more, then we hope that it just helps to make your product even better than it, than it was, than it ever has been. And part of the reason why we're being so aggressive with Pro PCTG, for example, that 25% price reduction, we really believe that it's going to replace, maybe not fully or completely, but in a pretty large fashion, replace PETG as a 3D printing material. And we want to help be a part of that. So with all of that, now we move into the question section. I do want to say, if you have questions on anything that I just talked about, please make sure to leave them down in the comment section below. I really want to help answer these questions. I don't think that it's too common where the manufacturer is as open as I am with, kind of how we do things. Now, of course, there's always going to be some things I can't share. There's some strategic stuff going on I can't talk about yet. And some things that are proprietary that we have developed in-house, and we kind of want to keep that close to the, hold that close to our chest. But I want you to feel like you have a good understanding of how we manufacture 3D-Fuel filament and, and why we have the value that we do. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the questions from last week's video. First one is from Nick Woak, and this is, it says, it's so refreshing. It's not a question, it's more of a comment. It's so refreshing to see a US 3D printing brand take steps to be cost competitive. This market is absolutely dominated by cheap Chinese manufacturing, and there are so many examples of American brands that make little or no effort to compete. They either fade into obscurity or give up on the hobbyist market entirely. P.S. I've been using 3D-Fuel filament personally for years, and I'm a big advocate. We exclusively use Pro PCTG for production parts at the office too. Good stuff. So Nick, I want to thank you. Thank you for being a 3D-Fuel customer. Thank you for talking to your, to the people you work with that, talking about Pro PCTG, and thank you for encouraging them to use it for their projects. And I'm glad that it's a functional material for you. That's great. It's customers like you that really help, help us small manufacturers keep going and allow us to invest in, kind of getting to the next big thing. This next comment is, I guess I'll fix it. Oh, dang. Can't wait to see what else is in store. Any chance you guys are working on a transparent purple? I have so many projects that would benefit from a more transparent material in that color. So at this point, we are not working on a transparent purple. Not that we would never do that, but we already have 41 colors of Pro PCTG. If there is a strong enough use case for transparent purple, we can certainly look at adding it. But to add it, you're looking at like a 2-month lead time when we're working with our colorant manufacturer. The process for that is, first we need to have something to match. So if you have a sample, or if you have a specific transparent purple that you're trying to match, that's always great because we can send a physical sample into them. And then from there, they have to develop the colorant. They send out a test batch to me. We extrude it. We see how well it looks, or how well it extrudes. And then we make the decision, do we add this to our lineup as is? From there, we place an order, and it's about, I'd say, a 2 to 4 week lead time for us to have the production quantity of that colorant, and then we can enter it into full production. So normally with that initial test batch, we'll be able to produce about 50 spools of filament, but then beyond that, there's that bit of a lead time. Next comment is from Ryan S600. Great to see things up and running. What are some of the prints you're most excited to try that can only be done on the U1, or that the U1 would make extremely easier? Breakaway supports. I know it's not a terribly sexy application of having 4 different tool heads, but because you're really only using 2 in that case, but breakaway supports, just making it even easier to use PLA as a support material with Pro PCTG. And then maybe starting to do some more multicolor stuff, faster hue forge prints, that kind of thing. From AZ3D Printing, loved this video. Question, with better windings and quality control, do you foresee refuel being discontinued? No. Even though we're always trying to keep the amount of refuel down, we don't see refuel ever going away, because even things like color transitions, when we're going from color A to color B, we can't sell that as a regular, filament or, regular color, because it's not. We are we're very careful about making sure that our color consistency is good. So even those color transition spools will be, those will be still sold as part of the refuel lineup. And we're still going to have things that are out of spec. There are times where you have a blob that comes off the die of the extruder, and it makes it an unsellable spool. So we have to repelletize that and, turn that into refuel down the road. From Cali Lifestyle, just a simple thanks team. From Specialized with Spooner, with the U1, I wonder how long before we start to see what the community does with AMSs, and if they start to modify them to work with the U1 to help with the color swaps versus the pause method for each nozzle. Now that's interesting. Now, if you could have like an AMS on each tool head, that's going to, effectively give you 16 colors if you have an AMS for 4 colors each, and then the 4 tool heads. I'm sure someone will hack something like that together. And if not, if not a Bamboo AMS, I know there's a lot of open source projects for multicolor or multi-material systems that I think could probably be integrated in that. And then this next one is last one, I guess, is a perfect example of why we're doing what we're doing with the price reduction. This is from Diana Barron, 6447. Less is more. I would buy it if it didn't cost so much, so I haven't had the chance to try it. And I already commented on that post on on that comment on the YouTube video. And I said, well, we've brought our prices down, which we have. So this is why we're doing it. We want to help win over more people that are kind of on the fence. You've heard about PCTG, you've heard about 3D-Fuel, but you just haven't been able to justify pulling the trigger yet. We hope that this is that straw that breaks the camel's back and really kind of helps you move forward with doing that. Last couple of things before I end this video. I've been getting some good feedback from people about the production quality of these videos, or I don't want to say the lack thereof. We're definitely getting better. Editing, I don't always have the time to do as well as I would like to do, but I'm definitely getting a little bit better at that. But things like the lighting. So huge shout out here to Jeff from denoftools.com. So Jeff, he saw the thumbnail in the video from last week that has all of our toolbox colors with the 3D printed toolboxes that we had at 3D Printopia. And, he was calling out how, Den of Tools, they make a lot of tool accessories, stuff, he's got his own channel too, I think around 300 subscribers there. So definitely go check them out. But part of what he said, where is it? I'm reading the actual comment because I don't want to paraphrase this. I want to quote it. Okay, so the next part I need to say, and there's no truly polite way to say this, but you need to ditch the ring light. The only people really using those are mostly teenage girls on Instagram, and it gives off a very unprofessional vibe. And on top of that, the light in your eyeballs is incredibly distracting. Do a Google search on 3-position lighting for video. If you need any help with it, feel free to email me. I can send you a quick sketch and some reasonably priced products to get professional looking lighting. Thanks for your time. So that was in addition to some other feedback on the toolbox colors. But Jeff, I really do want to thank you. I think that this is I know I only really have 2 lights in this video, and I have a couple of other things on order, but I wanted to at least get this video out this week. I didn't want to hold off on doing anything, but I think this is better. I think it's an improvement. If you guys have any other feedback on if you think this is better compared to the previous videos or worse, I don't think anyone's going to think this is worse. But if you have suggestions on how to make this better, it's why I love this community side of things. I'm always here to learn something. I hope that you are too. I hope that you've learned something from this video about manufacturing. And if you have any more feedback for me on how we can be improving things, either with the 3D Fueled show or at 3D Fuel, I'd appreciate hearing about that. So from me, I want to thank you guys for tuning in for this week's episode. If you haven't tried 3D Fuel filament yet, I really would encourage you to do it. There's never been a better time to be doing that. And from one small US manufacturer to all of you others out there, keep it up. I know it's a hard road. It's challenging, but I don't know if I'd want to be doing anything else. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.